Hey you guys, how's it going? Just wanted to film a quick video here right after the trade we took today. This is another trade recap type of video, but it is a little different, and I will get into that in a second as to why that is. But yeah, today's trade was actually taken on a small live account I started with Trade08. The minimum to trade one MNQ is 100. You need 100 in your account to have the leverage to do that, and I decided to start a very small account with $300 just for a fun challenge. Reason being is last week our funded account we normally trade on was deactivated due to some sort of error over on the prop firm side, but they got that back up in about a day or so, so that account is available to trade again. But because of that, I thought, wow, it's, sometimes there's stuff like this you have to deal with when it is technically not your money, it's someone else's. So I thought, why don't I put a few bucks into a live account and try to trade that? And yeah, it is, we're one trade in, and it has been very interesting. As you can probably see from the title of the video, I committed a bit of a psychological error. So I want to get into that. But firstly, just get out of the way the trade setup itself. Not the main point of the video, but just to show some context for the whole thing. So going into the day, we were bouncing off of down here. I thought the 1 hour was bullish for the most part. The structure of the 1 hour chart looked bullish to me. The 4 hour also was going up pretty high, so I decided the 4 hours bullish. The main thing I did not like about the bullish bias for the day, though, was these bearish 4 hour fair value gaps, or this bearish 4 hour fair value gap right here. We did make it past this one, though, so that gave me a little bit more confidence in my bias. But yeah, I typically do not love to take longs when there is all these stacked gaps to our left, and we're basically trading into them. It does kind of reduce probability for me a little bit. I know there is always something, against there's always a reason to not take a trade, but I did think structure was bullish enough to kind of ignore that for the time being and take longs. But yeah, anyways, so the 1 hour and the 4 hour looked bullish, made it past those gaps. There were some bullish key levels I had marked out going into market open, but what ended up happening is we came down into this 1 hour bullish fair gap you could see here, and it is a small one, but we did invert this 5-minute bearish gap right here, and that is where I took my entry on the next candle, as you can see. So yeah, simple setup, came down into this bullish 1 hour fair value gap. There was a 5-minute gap we inverted, took the entry right here. I planned break even right here, and then kind of a bit early, as you can see from the price action, the directional bias was definitely correct. I was planning to take full TP right here, but as you can see, I took it on this candle. So yeah, that is the psychological error I want to get into today, and that is taking profits early. I don't think that is the worst psychological error you could commit. I definitely think there are way worse ones. For example, revenge trading, or impulse trading, or cutting the trade early into a loss. Like it goes down a little bit, and you're like, I just can't be in this. I'm gonna cut it here before it hits full stop loss. I think that is a bit worse. There's a few others. Over leveraging is a pretty bad psychological error you could commit. Those are just, the main ones I could think of off the top of my head here. But yeah, I do think this one is a bit justified. Reason being, I started this small account, I think last week, and then today it was available to trade. But the account is very small. It's $300. So a 50-point move on the NASDAQ is about $100. And if it's a $100 loss, that is about 30% of the entire account. So with the funded accounts, I believe we're normally doing less than 0.5% risk of the whole account. So I do not normally feel too many emotional swings trading on the funded account. I could let the trade play out. But I did kind of tell myself, if the first trade gets into some profit, I do want to secure some profit to build a buffer on the account. So the next time I take a trade, it's not like $100 loss would be 30% of the original account value. So I don't think this is going to become a habit. Every time occasionally I commit a psychological error, I like to call them, and this is one I normally would not commit on the funded account. I sort of gave myself permission to do this, though, as the reasoning I just explained, build a small buffer on the account. But yeah, guys, there was a emotional roller coaster that I have not experienced in a while, because it has been a while since I've traded live funds. We have just been, past the funded account and then trade that. But, max you could lose on that is the initial, $150 or so you put into the account. And a loss is about, maybe less than 0.5% of the whole account. So, I could take, with the size I trade on the funded account, I could take, 15 losses in a row, and the account is, still there. So there is a lot less at stake. But, man, so yeah, just to kind of summarize the emotional roller coaster I went on today, basically, we were about to get this 5-minute close. I was pretty decided I was going to enter, but also 2 minutes before we got the close, I was like, I don't like price action. There's that 4-hour gap to the left of us. I'm gonna let this one go by, which is not good. You need to be fully decided. Then about a minute before the close, I'm like, okay, wait, I think we're going to get a pretty solid 5-minute close here, and that's the trade I originally planned. So sort of had a self-sabotage thought before that, and I kind of came back to my senses. So, back to the laptop, looking at it again, get the 5-minute close. Pretty sure I had my stop down here, pretty much where it needs to be. Break even right here, TP right here. And then, right after I open the trade, it goes down, right? And I'm thinking, wow, I should not be in this. I didn't want to take that. Why did I take that? But then, I do some deep breathing, take a second, and I'm like, okay, that is the trade I planned. It's in line with my bias. Normally I don't go through this emotional, up and down with the funded account. So this is very new to me. Or at least, everyone experienced this, but this is new in recent terms. So yeah, that was new. It comes close to your entry point, and then you're like, wow, should I get out of this now while I can? So I avoid a loss, right? You want to avoid a loss. Psychologically, it doesn't feel good. It goes up into profit a little bit, and then it goes back down again, and then I'm thinking, that was my chance. But by this point, I am pretty calm. Luckily, it hits break even, so I am relaxed now, right? I move my stop to break even. And then, it goes up a bit more, and then it comes back down again, right? And kind of what I'm thinking here is, okay, if, the profit amount, I didn't want to give away profits. This is kind of the error I committed, but I did sort of allow myself to do this. I'm not upset. But if it got, closer to $100, I'll just take it, because that is a good buffer I could add to my $300 live account. But yeah, I closed it there. As you can see from the execution marks, I think just over $100. And then, shortly after I watch it go up to my full TP, I wasn't mad though, because, I knew that could obviously happen. But in the moment, it was such a, oh, I have to close right now, right? The thought of, I already have my stop at break even, there's nothing to lose, I should just, take my hand off the mouse and let it do its thing, kind of, escaped me. Even though, normally that is not something I do. I think that's kind of sort of a beginner error. But, first trade in the live account, So yeah, we have a small buffer on the account now, and going forward, I'm going to be more cautious of taking profits early. Make a point of that. Hit break even, move the stop to break even. If take profits in a reasonable spot, let the trade play out. That is much better for your statistic and your overall profitability in the long term. But yeah, I'm not mad. Either way, there was something to learn from this. I learned a lot from all the emotional roller coaster, I call it. As get pretty close to the stop down here, what's going through my head. Finally, hit break even, big relief, and take profits early, and then watch it go way past my take profit. So yeah, I try not to let it affect me too much. I mean, it's all a learning experience. Even if this went straight down to stop loss, I wouldn't have been too upset, right? That's the risk you take when you put on a trade. But yeah, a lot to learn from this one. We took profits early, put a little buffer on the account. But yeah, just a good reminder to be confident in yourself and your bias and your trade setups, right? Because I took it for a reason. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to mention is finding the setups is easy, but taking the setups and emotional management during the setup is very important, and that's a topic for a whole nother video. But yeah, finding the setup is easy, but there was there's like so many emotional hurdles you have to overcome for the trade to fully play out, right? I mean, think about how many times someone would want to have closed this trade as it was going down closer to your stop loss, or maybe even extend the stop loss, right? So you got to be really careful of all these emotional errors, and I think it's a big awareness thing. If you're aware of what you're doing and you kind of take a breath and don't do anything super impulsively, you would kind of prevent these. Got to admit right here, sort of impulsive. That was a thought I had in my head recently to take profits early on the first trade, but it wasn't part of my plan today. So that is one thing I can work on going forward. But yeah, guys, I hope any of you guys could take some insight from this. But that is just the trade recap today and the psychological error I made. But going forward, we're going to work on that, and that's something I'll keep in mind. So hopefully, everyone could learn something from that. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys. That's it for today.